Welcome, everybody, back here at Veil of Sound. It's our regular Sunday interview, and it's the Sunday after Valentine's Day. We are recording this a few days before Valentine's Day, but that doesn't matter. But the important thing is that in a matter of a few days, you can be listening to the new record by this wonderful young lady here. So I'm very happy to have Amaya Lopez, and I hope I don't mispronounce the last part of her name. Amaya Lopez, where is it? Carromero? No, that's wrong.
Close enough.
Carromero.
Pretty cool. I could tell you were German, but apart from that, it was pretty good.
Yes, I am German, and I can't hide it anyway. But you might know her under her moniker, Moth the Moth. So, Amaya, thanks for joining our show.
Thanks to you for having me today.
Yeah, I have to say that Amaya might be the most spontaneous person that we ever interviewed, because I think on Sunday, you and I quickly exchanged a few messages, and within a matter of, I think, an hour or two, this was arranged. So that is a wonderful exception to the regular procedure. Maya, we always ask one thing first here, and it's always the same thing. Do you have any kind of band, merch, shirt, record, apart from your own, that you would like to plug here right now? I'll give you a moment to think about it while I plug something. I haven't plugged them in like a month or so, so I have to do it again. My wonderful friends in Ken Mode. Although my daughter hates the shirt, but who cares?
They're amazing.
Amaya, I see you have a wonderful shirt on.
I do, yes. It's a Hex
Long
Vessel
sleeve.
shirt.
Yeah, Hex Vessel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, why not? You know, they're a great band. They're great people. I play with them. I played with them a show in London this summer. And yeah, it was really great. I've been such a huge fan for many years, and in all of their different formats. Yeah, it was a really special day. So, and Matt gave me this T-shirt, so a cherished T-shirt.
Do you then also listen to, for example, their Beast Milk stuff or Grave Pleasures?
Yeah, I think it's really good. I mean, I haven't listened to it for a while, but I really, really liked it. I think it's like the same thing, but it changed names, right?
In a way, I think it's a little.
Yeah.
I think Grave Pleasure is even a little darker than Beast Milk.
I really, really like. I really like both things, and yeah, big fan.
Yeah, and also with Hex Vessel, I mean, like one of the most versatile bands out there at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I would say. Amaya, you are releasing this record in a couple of days, and it's called the Distaff. I had to look it up because I didn't know what it was. But what struck me is that it basically, in Germany, we would say it has a connection to a fairy tale. But when I read it, and I think that is something that is very important to you, it is seen across many cultures as a symbol of a virtuous woman. Is that important for you to not only show your feminine side, but also to make clear, like, okay, we are here for our rights. We are here to fight in a way?
I think my reading of that whole thing is not that polarized. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to like I don't know how to say it. In a way, it's a criticism of I think I would summarize it as a criticism of expectations for any predefined roles. And in my particular case, because obviously, like, I have only lived my life, so I feel like the way I use music, and in particular Moth the Moth, is to kind of process quite a lot of personal stuff and build a world in which things make sense to me. So it's a bit of a strategy or a tool for like self-exploration and understanding the world. So in the last years, I feel like in my life, I went through a lot of transformative things, you know, like that happened for me. And I was faced with lots of lots of stuff that I was dealing with. And I had to confront a lot of dark things, I think. And this is something that kind of summarized, or to me, it was a symbol that summarized well some of the stuff that I personally felt I was going through. It's actually like, so the name the Distaff comes from a poem, which is one of the earliest examples of literature written by a woman, which was from around, I don't know, like 600 BC or something like that. And it was a poem about this woman who was mourning for her friend who had been like kind of married away. And in this marriage, she had lost her individuality. And then I was kind of captured by this idea of the distaff, like what it meant. And I started reading how, it's like a strong symbology, because basically in antiquity, how women were able to earn money was by basically making cloth, you know?
Yeah.
So the whole thing kind of unraveled, pun not intended, but I don't know, there's quite a lot of, the whole thing became quite loaded, no? Like it becomes very mixed with like power, and it becomes, and power dynamics and the abuse born of power dynamics. And I don't know, I recently watched this film, The Girl with the Needle, which is brutal, absolutely brutal. But one thing I liked very much is that it's a very rare example of female gaze. So like the story is narrated from the point of view of a woman, and there's no heroes and there's no anti-heroes. It's just very human. And people are shown as flawed. And I think in the arts, a lot of the time, women have to be displayed as like heroines, or like they are like perfect or graceful or whatever. And I think this is basically what I'm trying to dig into in this album, like that, you know, humans are humans, and like the expectations that society places upon them are a burden for everybody. And in particular, I feel for women, this is a representation of some of the burdens that have been imposed on people who are seen like this, you know, in society, or who are read as female, or so there you go. Sorry for the
no. That's totally fine. I like it because it gives a lot of.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
No. It's totally fine. I like that because there are a lot of things that we can pick up on. Let's start with one of the last things that you've said: expectations. Did you feel any kind of expectations when you started composing the songs for the Distaff? Because I mean, like, I proudly proclaim myself one of the people who already discovered you with Orphne, and I also wrote a review on that back in the day. A wonderful record, by the way. Thanks very much for that. But did you feel any kind of pressure on yourself?
To be fair, the pressure did appear at some point, but the reason I love music so much is, for me, it's kind of the ultimate hiding place. I always approach it from a point of view of like wonder and just pure love, you know? It's just like a place where I feel like I can completely be myself, and I accept myself fully. So when I'm writing music, there's no expectations really. It's just kind of, I don't know, I just try to play music, and then sometimes I hear something that I don't know, like pulls in a specific direction, and I follow it. But then, of course, you know, songs have to be made into a finished song, and then they have to go into an album, and then they have to be recorded, and so on. And as such, I think this has been a pretty silly album to make. I would say it's as silly as Orphne in different ways. It's less like orchestrated. It's like a lot more minimal, but in many ways, I think it's also it's even more complex than Orphne. So yeah, it did start to like, pile up at the end, and it was quite a small beast to defeat at the end.
It's interesting that you say it is less defined than Orphne, but at the same time, there are moments when the distaff is much heavier than Orphne. There are several tracks on there which really show that you are more than just a pianist, but that you are somebody who has been involved in a lot of other projects. We'll come to those in a moment. And you have gone way beyond just the piano. All those different layers, also all those different soundscapes. I mean, like there are tracks which border on post metal in a way. Was it also something that you were curious about? Like, how far can I take Moth the Moth and still go into different places?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that's always been present in my music. But of course, like production doesn't always, unless you have unlimited unlimited budget, and also, I mean, the Moth ultimately is a solo singer-songwriter type of project. So I've never had the opportunity of playing with the same people for a very long time. And I think in this album has been the most controlled circumstances, and by design, the way that we planned the entire recording of the album, because I did it quite closely with Scott. So he has been doing my live sound for like years now, and he knows exactly what my songs sound like live. And I think I started using like relatively heavy distortion on piano around the time of the pandemic. Sorry for saying the P word. And then it was like some of the songs.
We've had worse words on our show. Fuck them.
Yeah. Yes, I probably elicited some PTSD there. Someone. Sorry about that. I think it was kind of present in the live stuff, but then it hadn't really transferred to the albums until this one. And you're completely right that, like, I mean, but it's always been a big influence for me. It's not really, I guess I've never really been able to put it on a record in the same way that I have in this one. So, yeah.
It's also a way that when listening to it, and also, for example, when looking at the track titles, and of course it comes directly, it springs into your eye. Some of the track names are Spanish, some are English. So let's get to that quickly. I mean, like, you were born in Spain, if I remember correctly, and you're now living in Scotland for quite a while. Do you still consider yourself an expat, or have you found a new home?
I think I struggle a bit with the concept of home in general. When I lived, I don't really feel like nationality has ever defined any part of my personality or my identity. I was of course born in Spain, and I lived there most of my life up till now. Big main percentage of my life I lived in Spain. And there's lots of things that are like, I go back there and it feels like, I'm from there. There's a lot of cultural baggage. There's, of course, like family, friends, etc., etc.
It's interesting that you call family baggage. Mom and Dad will be happy about that.
I mean, have you read my lyrics?
I did, but I just don't want to.
They won't watch this interview, so that's fine. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't feel like the UK is home either, because I also feel like there's things that I've become a part of me here, but they are also, I still feel like an immigrant in many ways, you know, and I kind of blend in a bit better now, but it's not the nicest feeling to have to go rebuild your life in a different country. A lot of people have very strong feelings about that kind of stuff and are very rude, and it is a very difficult position to be in. And so I have a lot of solidarity for anybody who goes through something like that. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't really, countries aren't a thing that I have any strong feelings about, to be honest.
So you'd probably agree with Lennon, huh? Imagine there's no countries. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I mean, like, I always try to teach my students in history class. I always try to teach them that nationalism is one of the worst things that that ever happened to mankind. And then they look at me and they're totally confused. You've spoken about immigrant. Can we define that? Do you feel like an immigrant, or because you're going back and forth, are you basically a constant migrant?
Yeah, I would agree that I am a constant migrant. Yeah. Even when I lived in Spain, I used to, in the last years I was there, I used to tour quite a lot, and I moved houses quite a lot as well. Not by choice, but, and so I think like that impermanence has been like quite a constant in my life.
When you are using Spanish track titles and also sometimes Spanish lyrics, is that because at that moment you feel like, okay, I can express these ideas better in that language? Or is it not really a conscious decision?
It's a really interesting question, actually, and I think there's quite a lot of weight in that. I don't personally think that I understand it yet that well. I just kind of let my creative pool do whatever. I think it's quite interesting that I've started to incorporate Spanish into my work now, and I feel a lot more connected with it from the distance. I think when I lived in Spain, I just kind of wanted to escape that reality, you know, and now I kind of want to escape the reality here. So
then we're back at the constant migrant thing, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. There's something. I think there's some probably something that belongs in a therapy session to be read from that.
Also, very interesting is, of course, looking at some of the track titles, for example, Exuvia, and then looking at your stage moniker, Maud the Moth. Exuvia, for all of that, I don't think I know every English word. I had to look it up. Exuvia is basically the skin that is shed by some animals and that is then being left behind. Could be, for example, a moth, or it could be an insect. Do you feel as if with this record you were able to shed some of the unimportant skin and come up with a new identity, or maybe with a new yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that's like, I think that's pretty spot on. It was also a bit of a Easter egg thing, because on Orphne there's a track called Ecdysis, which is the process of shedding the skin. So it's a bit of a hint to that, that like the skin has been shed. Yeah.
But both tracks don't have anything to do with each other musically, right?
No, definitely not. Musically, not at all. I think conceptually, maybe a little bit. Like Ecdysis talked a bit about, you know, not being able, dealing with stuff in a very unhealthy way. And I feel like Exuvier is it's definitely not a positive song. It's a song like about failure, but it's a bit of like accepting that failure and just confronting this like shadow, and just sitting with your pain and just watching it, and
Yeah, and also accepting it, right? It's part of
yeah.
human experience. When we were talking about the musical connections between Orphne and the new one, there basically are not a lot of them, right? I think that both records stand perfectly well on their own because they're both great albums. But I would say that they are very distinctly different from each other. Is that something that is important for you, not to repeat yourself, or does it just happen by accident?
I think I don't do it consciously, but I am someone who's very curious, and I try to find this like I'm in this eternal quest for stimulation. So I tend to find interesting things that are new or different to me. I'm quite a big fan of the process of discovery. So I think it's just a natural result of that.
When you speak about discovery, sorry, are you one of those persons, just like a lot of the nerds like me and the people outside of the screen who are watching this right now? Are you one who seeks out new music all the time? Or a lot of the time?
Yeah, to be fair, like lately, I don't really listen to as much music as I used to. I think I'm just a bit burnt out from making the album. But yeah, totally. I really love listening to new things and discovering new bands. I really love going to concerts where I don't know who's playing or what's on. And just I especially like it in that kind of like setting, where in like live setting, to just be surprised by stuff. So yeah, I quite
So
like
what
it.
was the last live band that really blew you away?
Oh, it wasn't a discovery though, but it's like stuck with me for months now. Well, it wasn't months. I think it was like a month ago that I went to see Shoo Shoo in Glasgow.
Yeah, okay.
And they're like, yeah, they have this like ancient drummer as well who just went on stage, and we were like, oh my God. And then it was like, holy shit, like just, oh, sorry.
No, forget it. Nobody cares about that here.
It was, man, it was amazing, amazing. Like just, it was also a pretty long gig. It was like over an hour. At some point, there was like a fire alarm going on in the venue, and nobody realized the fire alarm was on because it just blended so perfectly with everything going on. And I felt like they even like realized, because at some point they stopped and they were like, is there a fire alarm going on? The fire alarm just kept going. And the venue people were like, oh, we don't, like, trying to sort it out. They just like continued playing, and it just became part of the environment. And it was like one of those magical concert situations. So yeah, like that's just what a masterpiece of a concert.
Yeah. I can totally see Jamie and Angela on stage and being like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, I can see that. I definitely can picture that in my head. For everybody who always asks like music recommendations, listen to the new Unrequited album, A Pathway to the Moon. Listen to it a few days ago. And it's one of those records which the best thing a record can do in me is want to sit down and talk about it. So I wrote about it, and that's a brilliant black gaze album. I think will be hard to find a better one in 2025. Yeah. When we are talking about concerts, I had the pleasure of seeing you a few years ago at my favorite festival, and I think it's also yours, if I remember correctly, Roadburn. You were performing with healthyliving. Did this collaboration also change your way of music a little bit? of writing music? Sorry.
When you talk about healthy living, when you talk about collaboration, you mean healthy living?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, because it's kind of my band as well. It's not a
I know it
collaboration.
is your band, sorry, but collaborating with other people. I mean, like
Okay, I see.
with Mod
Yeah.
for Moth, basically you're the one responsible for nearly everything. But with Healthy Living, of course, there are two other people in the band. So that's what I meant
Yeah.
with collaborating. Did that work as a band in this band? Change your own way of writing?
Um, hmm, I don't know. It's interesting. I think now because obviously like we did the album here and the Healthy Living album and it was mostly well obviously like Stefan plays drums and so on, but the rest of the stuff was like Scott and me, and he was like mixing it. I was like present for the entire mix, and then we've just done a lot of music together since then, and I think we probably both have influenced each other's way of making it. And then when we were making the Moth album, there was things that kind of I guess they would have been maybe influenced by that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like both projects are very, very different. So I don't really know to what extent there could be an influence from Healthy Living on Moth, but probably more than I think or I realize.
Or could it be the other way around, that it helps you distinct or differentiate more carefully, like, okay, that is something that I can do for Mod, while on the other hand, that could be a part that might be more suitable for Healthy Living or a different project?
I mean, that is actually something that has happened. I wrote this song to the fields, and initially I wasn't sure if that was going to be a Moth song or a Healthy Living song, and then it ended up being a Healthy Living song. And I actually have written quite a bunch of stuff at the moment, which some of it, so it's like on guitar, which is kind of weird, but not really, because when I started Moth, some of the songs that I wrote were on guitar as well. And then I passed them on to piano. And in this album, actually, there's a song, Siphonophores, that I wrote on guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote it around the same time, actually, that I wrote to the fields. So there are some songs that do actually kind of are there in the middle, in this like the range that they could be go into one project or just go back to Moth. So yeah, I think in their infancy, when the songs are like, just a seed, like sometimes there's a moment of hesitation as to which side they will develop into. Then I think both things have very different personalities, so at some point it does become clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So can I indirectly read between the lines that you and the guys are working on new Healthy Living stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we always are. It's whether, yeah, it's. I think it's a matter of like how much energy you have. Like, so this year has just been absolutely brutal to get this album finished, and not just because of the music, because it's just everything. Like it was a huge project. I have to coordinate like not just the recording and the people playing in it and so on, but also like all the stuff with the PR. I did all the artwork as well. We've done most of the videos. It's just huge. It's just a huge amount of work. So, and Scott as well does like a lot of production work.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been working on albums as well for other bands and so on. And it's sometimes a bit like challenging to just have the energy to dedicate to other projects.
You have spoken about you having been responsible for everything. Then I mean, like, did you
That's a bit
also?
megalomaniac.
No. If you were the answer to the next question would probably be different. You have a track on there, and I have to ask that. I have two questions about that track. Fiat Lux.
Yeah.
First of all, I mean, lux is the light in Latin. I remember that. I don't remember what fiat is, but I remember lux is the light. When listening to that track, there are a few sounds on it which really, they are as if you found the sound that the sun makes when it goes up, like as if you were able to pinpoint it. A little sparkly, but not too long, a little explosive, but not too harsh. Is that something that you search for? Like find correlations between the lyrics or the idea and the song itself?
Yeah, definitely. Like, well, first of all, thanks. A big compliment in my books. So, but yeah, definitely, I feel like sound to me is a very visual experience, which is kind of a weird thing to say, I guess.
No.
Okay, cool.
It's called synesthesis.
So I don't know. That song to me is based on like some personal like memories that are also mixed with other hand-me-down memories that other people in my family would tell me about, and it paints this like image. And there is this like by candlelight glow, and there's also this moments of like blinding light as well. And yeah, I think definitely when I'm writing, I just try to go into like a stage of just I don't try to think too. Oh no, I think you froze. Oh, there, you're back.
You were saying about you try not to think too much. Is that correct?
Yeah, when I'm writing music, I try not to overthink stuff. It's just more like conscious, like flow of consciousness, both musically and lyrics. And then, the Spanish Inquisitor comes out, and then it's like, this is shit. This is give up already. Like that kind of positive thinking that gets you.
The other question connected to the track before I would like to talk about the overall topic of the whole record. I'm not sure, and here comes the non-megalomaniac into it. Are you aware that there is a track of the same name by Einstürzende Neubauten?
Fiat Lux.
Yes.
Oh no, I actually didn't know that. Yeah, but these guys have got like 7,000 albums, don't they?
Well, let's say 3,000. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's a huge discography.
Yeah,
no,
I
but
actually did not know that, but I will go and listen to it.
It's very, very different. It's very different. It reminded me a lot of Another Brick in the Wall by Floyd, where you have this long outro with a lot of vocal samples in it, and it's similar to that one. But let's talk about the story of the Distaff. If I understood it correctly, that is basically a narrative, right? A narrative, just like you spoken about that poem by Erina being one of the first poems written, or not poems, pieces of literature written by a female. So this one is also a narrative from a female perspective, right?
Yeah, I guess it's yeah. I'd say so. I think it's not in a very it's not done in a way that's like very obvious, or I mean, it sounds like I just I don't have a very kind of direct style with Moth the Moth. It's something that I actually because with Moth the Moth it's so everything is so symbolic and metaphorical. I actually really like direct writing styles. It's something that I've tried to explore a bit more with Healthy Living, which I think also has quite a lot of symbolism, but it's a lot more based on like everyday things, and the style is a bit more like first person narration and so on. So with Moth, everything has more of like symbolic and like fantastic, vibe. So you're right that the way that I put the album together, once the songs were there and they were kind of more or less formed, I try to create something that has a bit of a circular has a bit of a circular motion. There's an arc to the album, like the first song and the last song start the same, like with this big breath, and then there's this vocal that comes in, and it kind of tries to create an arc that's like the span of a day, during which there's like a transformation. It's like either like the wedding night or the point of change. Like there is a transformation. There's a merging of the of opposites, and there's like a kind of like redigestion of, I don't know, the negative stuff, things.
And like, of course, when we talk about that's very interesting. When we talk about narratives that span 24 hours, I mean, like one of the first things that comes to mind to every literary nerd is, of course, Joyce's Ulysses, which also is not changing. The narrator is changing in a way, but not too much. But what I noticed about the narrative in Ulysses, and also a little bit when I listened to your narrative on the Distaff. Yeah. You will see my point in a moment. The reader or the consumer comes out different. We go into the day or we go into the narrative in a certain manner or fashion, and we leave in a very different one. Is that I guess that is an effect that you would wish for your music to achieve and everybody that's listening, right?
Yeah. I mean, that sounds amazing. I do hope that when the whole album comes out, like people do have a bit of that or feel that would be a total triumph, I think. It's not something that happened in a very like calculated way. I think I was just I mean, I did hack away at the album infinitely, but you never really know when you're making any kind of thing, like creative thing. I feel like you never really know what you're gonna get. And I think if you do know what you're gonna get, you're probably just making a product or crafting something which can be very beautiful, but it doesn't have that thing that really, really attracts me from personally, in particular music, I find songwriting and music making like this almost like magical world in which anything can happen, like, and yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does.
Sorry for the
No. I think it is because of the nature of music. Music is the one art that can create an emotion without the person having to think too much about it.
Yeah, it definitely has this like subjective quality that you can, it's like smelling something. You can you can get memories or like flashbacks of things. It brings, I think it's like goes really, really deep into our primal brain for some reason, found.
Definitely. And it's also the way that I'm very sure that you also have, that there will always be tracks and songs that you've heard in your childhood and that still evoke a very, very similar feeling. To this day, there are songs from my childhood that, my dad used to play when he was at home once in a while. And I could still see him there spinning the 7 inches. And I remember, just like you say, that moment of breath on the beginning of your record and at the end of it. I could still, there are certain 7 inches that I'm happy that I have by now. When you would play them, and I would probably within a matter of less than a second, just because of the nuances, know which song it is. And that is something that music can do. And when you say that the album starts and ends with a deep breath, that's also in a way like somebody takes a deep breath and starts narrating a story, right?
Like that.
That's a wonderful idea to start with. But again, the popular culture nerd in me has to ask about that last track, Quizat Zaderach.
Yeah.
Isn't that one of those figures from Dune?
Yeah, that's supposedly it's like the great messiah that was gonna come and save us all. This
Cobain.
This like eugenics character that was like going to be bred for like generations. And in a way I'm a big fan of like science fiction in general, and Dune in particular, of course. A man of his period, he is not without fault, and just not gonna delve too much into that aspect.
Yeah.
But one thing that I did like about that book when I read it ages ago was the fact that like the whole idea about religion, and he seems quite critical of a lot of the stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And this idea, of the Quizat Haderach is like, to me, in the context of this album, it incarnates that ideal, that society expects of like everybody, and it, in a way, it also because of the way that it was poised in the album, like this guy that can actually look down the inherited like the historic memory. I don't know how they call it, but like he can look down the female path as well, right? And he can look down the male path as well. And so there's like a unification here of not necessarily gender, but like also, I mean, yes, that as well. But
yeah,
like,
because it's basically breaking down genders in a way.
Exactly, right? It's kind of breaking down this barrier, and it's kind of so it's I think it's a kind of it's a nudge to that, but also because the Distaff was basically this symbol, that was like meant to, something you would aspire to. So in a way, it's also a criticism of that, and it's like there is no Quizat Haderach, there's like everything is like a work in progress, and the only way that you can achieve this nirvana or perfection or whatever is just to keep like hacking at yourself daily. there is no shortening of the way,
and the way is,
sorry to disappoint you guys.
yeah.
Anyway,
I guess that you have also seen the 1984 version of the book, right? That film that was made after. I'm very sure you've already mentioned it. You've watched the two movies. Which one do you like better, the 80s version or the two movies that came out a few years ago?
For Dune?
Yeah, for Dune.
I mean, the Lynch version is an absolute car crash, but I really like it. I really like, I don't know, Sting in like sparkly like suit, and there's like this floating guy. It's pretty wild, to be honest. But it's a
little bit funnier in a way, I would say.
It is funny, but I mean, is it funny? It's like it's Lynchian, like Lynch has this thing of like it's not funny, it's cringy, but it's also just makes you wonder. And I don't know, everything he made, I'm just like fascinated by his work. So there was a TV show as well that was like 7 chapters or something like that.
Right.
That one was done. It was like somehow I think it was more true to the story, but it was a bit less magical. And I actually really love the films, like the modern films. I went to the cinema to watch them, and I was I was very obsessed with them for for a while.
I could tell that was the last film and the first film in a long time that I've went to see multiple times in the cinema.
Oh wow!
So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think the last film before that I had seen multiple times was Lord of the Rings, because once my friends dragged me along and once it was my then girlfriend. Yeah. So that is an achievement for Villeneuve with that movie. Something that I would like to ask before we then come to the infamous quickfire round that ends every Veil of Sound interview is something that is very interesting. You are releasing this record through a couple of outlets. You have one which is La Rubia Producciones, which is doing the vinyl. You have the Lavarium for the digital release and the CD, and you have Woodford Hall's Fanny Compton doing a tape release. Why spread it amongst so many different outlets?
Because we're not rich.
Yeah, if life was fair, you would be.
So so I've worked with Nuria from La Rubia for like many years now. She helped me quite a lot with Orphne, and then she's been helping me with lots of tours and with lots of distribution as well. She's just like this fairy godmother, you know. So she has like a really good relation with Vinyl Plant in Spain. She pressed the vinyl for Healthy Living as well. So I've just been working with her for years now. She's really awesome. And then with actually I'm gonna do some product placement here.
Yes, please. We love that.
Tape, which is Fanny well, this one eventually was Woodford House. It's like transparent red. It's pretty awesome. This one is a guy called Matt Handley, and it's a record label in England, and he did this as well already, which is my album with Traje de Saliva, which is a collaboration, reversed because the camera. Anyway, so he already did this edition for me, and I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved working with him. His label is amazing, and he does tapes, so they all kind of very satisfying as well. Like, so I just asked him if he wanted to do a tape edition, and he said yes. So he just would, he came in the cart, and then the digital and the CD, which is this, I guess well. So the CD is the Larvarium is my label with Scott. So we started a label because we've been doing music for ages now, and it's just like a lot of the stuff we just kind of had to learn how to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's basically our own thing, and we'll probably be releasing Healthy Living with it as well in the future. Mm-hmm. Or any represses and so on. So this is the first thing that we're doing as the Larvarium.
It's a good start. Let me assure you of that. Sorry, I forgot. There is one thing that I wanted to ask. I forgot which track it is, but there is one track on the record where you incorporate a lot of, for lack of a better word, trickle-down piano, where it seems as if the short, wonderful notes are basically falling over each other or tumbling over each other. And then it builds and builds and builds, and there is like even some kind of grand crescendo involving other instruments like the drums. And that was a moment, and I'm not sure if you can understand that, but that was a moment when I felt, okay, that could also be Berlin in the golden 20s. Is that something that you love, like this trickle-down piano and then build it all up?
Yeah, I actually, I think piano is like a very like underappreciated instrument in modern music. I think, and more like pop. Pop, I include metal and rock as well. Uh, things that aren't like a concert hall.
Mhm.
And ultimately, it's just this massive beast, that has like infinite possibilities. Um, there was lots of exploration in this album. We used the sustain pedal of the piano as percussion as well. So it has this kind of really deep, like,
Yeah.
um, feeling, and it's very resonant with the strings as well. So, and then there's lots of prepared piano as well everywhere. I'm not sure what you refer with the trickly thing. That might actually be just some glitchy stuff that I learned to do
Could
by
also be.
accident using Ableton. It's not an effect. It's just a random thing that Ableton has. And I did it once and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I've been exploiting it ever since. Secret will die with me, or probably in a video tutorial at some point.
Gotta sell it, remember.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think the piano is like a really cool instrument. I really like putting distortion on piano. It sounds really mad, like especially if you're actually able to use a real like real pedals and a real amp like we did for this album. Because live I have to do it digitally often, but yeah, there's like a sonority to like a hammered string that you can't really get, especially on a grand, like on a 2 meter string.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, is so yeah, like I really like exploring different sonorities of the instruments and so on.
So Maya, first of all, thanks for all the insight into the new record and also into the process behind it. But of course, you also have to go through the infamous quickfire round. You'll get 2 alternatives, and you have to choose and give a short answer for your choice. For example, what do you like more, AC versus DC, Pepsi versus Coca-Cola, real politicians versus the asshole in the White House? Like something like that. And I'll start off with 2 female artists that you've surely listened to. I'll give you 2 records by Björk first. Which one do you like more, post or debut?
I'd say debut.
Can you say why?
Because it was the first experience of her that I had of her music, and it just left a very deep impression on me, I think.
And then somebody who is probably even closer to you, because she also plays the piano, Tori Amos. Again, 2 records. Boys, I always forget, is it Boys of Pele or from Pele?
For Pele. Boys for
You know what I mean? Versus Under the Pink.
Boys for Pele. Although my favorite album by her is From the Choir Girls Hotel.
Oh yeah, that is also great. Is Debut your favorite Björk album?
I like Vespertine, I think. The most. Very magical.
We've spoken about Roadburn, and you have performed there, but what do you like more? Or which version do you like more? You going there as a visitor, or you going there as a performer?
I think that now that I have performed, probably attending, not because I didn't like performing, I absolutely loved it, but I was very stressed and I couldn't really enjoy the music. So I don't know, but then it's really nice. Like the vibe inside of the festival is like amazing. And I met so many, like I literally finished my show and I got off stage and I just saw Have a Nice Life, which are like one of my favorite bands ever. And I was just holding on my pedals and I was like, holy shit. So yeah, like anyway. So I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know. I would have to pass on that one. I can't decide.
if anybody wants to know a little bit more about Have a Nice Life, you should twiddle your dials to this YouTube channel a little bit more often in the next couple of weeks, because Radiohead, because I chose Radiohead because your producer Alex Wharton worked with the almighty Oxford lads. So I'll give you 2 Radiohead records: OK Computer versus The Bends.
I actually haven't listened to that second one you've mentioned.
The Bends. Okay, then OK Computer versus Amnesiac.
OK Computer.
For me, that would be a hard one, because my first real encounter with Radiohead was The Bends, and yeah.
Sorry.
No. I always think about what I would answer. That is a hard one. I know that you like your fair share of black metal, but the question is, I'm pretty sure that you are not into that kind of Norwegian, true Scandinavian, murderous church burning kind of death metal. Would you rather listen to something like Wolves in the Throne Room, which is very often called post-black, or something like Violet Cold, Sadness, Unrequited? So post-black metal versus black gaze.
Probably black gaze, although I do like Wolves in the Throne Room.
Yeah.
I kind of like, I don't really like death metal very much, but I really like weird blackened death metal. So I think like most of the bands that I like in that were all like avant-garde, weird. Yeah, that kind of stuff. I think that's my favorite.
Oh, when we talk about avant-garde black metal, we of course have to talk about your friends. Ashenspire. Ashenspire. We cannot leave this interview without dropping Ashenspire at least once. So shout out to everybody. I'll give you 2 classic combos. The Cure versus The Smiths. And we're only talking about music, not about the fact that Morrissey is a fascist asshole, but only about the music.
See, a while ago I would have said The Smiths, but I think now I would say The Cure. They've really grown on me. Again, I mean, Robert Smith is just adorable. And I just sometimes watch videos of him just ranting about stuff just when I'm having a bad day, you know?
Yeah, and it's
him,
a
like,
lot changed for me with the last Cure record. The last Cure record is just, if that is their last record, then it's the perfect swan song, you know. Like,
yeah,
it's not bad at all.
Yeah, they're really amazing. Like they also have some of my favorite, like their song like A Forest, that's like one of my top 10 favorite songs ever, I think. So yeah, I think The Cure.
So that was a classic British couple. So I'll give you a classic American couple: Nirvana versus Pearl Jam.
Nirvana.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't even. What was the second option?
Forget it. It's doesn't matter anymore. When we're talking about movies, and you've mentioned your love for Lynch. So Mulholland Drive versus Lost Highway.
Mulholland Drive.
I gave the same question a few days to somebody, and he said, to that same question, he said, Twin Peaks.
I actually like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to choose one. I love Twin Peaks. I love Blue Velvet very much as well.
Yeah.
I like the ones that are very, very kind of on this absolute, just full on surreal. That's like that nothing makes sense. So I think Mulholland Drive has more of that. Also,
although the twist in Lost Highway is, of course, one of the weirdest ones ever. But yeah,
that moment in the theater, like nothing makes sense. It's just beautiful, beautiful. Love it.
Did they switch movies? Yeah. And when we're talking about sci-fi movies, there is this question between Beatles and Stones, and there is the same thing for sci-fi fantasy. So Star Wars versus Star Trek.
Star Trek, but what's that? Enterprise. Although I've never really been a Star Wars fan. I do like I liked Andor very much.
The TV show. Yeah.
Yeah, the TV show. But anyway. Yeah.
Understandable. It's a really good show. No, for me, it must always be Star Wars, because the last Star Wars movie that came into the theaters was re-released, I think, a year or two later in Germany, and that was the first real movie that I saw in the cinema. So I was sold for life. Will always be Star Wars, but also only the first real free ones. Forget about the prequel shit and the sequel shit. And Amaya, thanks for all the detailed answers. Everybody, remember, this is February 16th. In 5 days, 5 days from now, you should all be listening to the Distaff.
February 21st.
What did I say?
16.
No, when this interview comes out, then it's the 16th.
The interview, sorry.
And in 5 days,
apologize.
5 days, the 21st, you should all be listening to the Distaff. Amaya, thanks for all your time, and thanks for the detailed answers.
Thanks to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.